History 101, Lecture 2, Rise of Europe, the rise of tone and trade. One of the major aspects of the development of Europe between the 11th and 16th century is the rise of tone and trade. Going all the way back to ancient Rome, the Roman Empire. When you study the Roman Empire, Rome traded with the known world of the day. Okay, so European Romans traded with African cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, and indirectly even India, China. Ancient Romans knew about China in general, and indirectly traded with people as far away as that. And so you have the Roman Empire really, has this trading network established with, all the main areas of the known world at the time. One of the biggest ways that the Roman Empire is able to trade with the known world, especially East, India, China, is the Silk Road. What is the Silk Road? If you look at the geography of northern Eurasia, going through Russia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Russia, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and into China, there's areas of that region that are plateaus. So it's a heavily mountainous region, and then there are areas of where it's a plateau, where it's almost like a natural highway that weaves in and through the mountain ranges. Some of the more famous areas are, if you've heard of the Hindu Kush mountains, some of the tallest mountains in the world in Afghanistan, Pakistan. But there are mountain passes where it's a plateau that you can just ride on through. There's grasslands in areas like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Russia, into China, and into Iran, Iraq, where it's a flat level grassland that you can get on a horse. You can get on a horse in China and ride to Europe. Okay. One of the most famous examples of a culture using the Silk Road to become politically and militarily dominant would be the Mongol Empire. That's one of the reasons why the Mongol Empire got so big, was because, they were able to use the plateau regions of the Silk Road to exert their influence from China to Europe. Okay, and so that same idea of the Silk Road also aids in the development of trade. So not only can militaries go across these the steppe, STEPPE, it's called the steppe. You can also trade along it. When the Western Roman Empire fell in the 5th century, Europe loses its trading networks. Okay? So when the Western Roman Empire falls apart, it's almost like Western Europe, places like Italy and France and Spain and Germany, well, what will become Germany. Germany didn't exist back then, but what will become Germany, places that are not part of the world, England, kind of become isolated. They drop out. They drop out of the chat, so to speak. They were in the Discord chat. They dropped out of it. Okay. So for a lot of centuries, you have a Western Europe that is no longer connected with the known world at the time. And so this leads to some interesting things. Like, for example, the ancient Romans, they knew about China indirectly. But guess what? By the time you get to the 14th century, 800 years later, Western Europeans have forgotten about China. Most Western Europeans don't don't really know about this faraway land called China. And so you kind of stop trading with the world, and then you also kind of lose even your knowledge, you know. And so your knowledge of the world even. And so the what we need when we talk about the rise of town and trade, we're talking about Europe, Western Europe being reconnected with its trading routes. The biggest way or the biggest catalyst for getting Western Europe reconnected with its trading route is the Crusades in between 1095 and 1291. The Crusades were a defensive struggle against invading Islamic cultures, Eastern European, Ottoman Turks, and the Moors in Spain. Another reason for the Crusades was for Western Europeans who wanted to reclaim the birthplace of Christianity, the Levant for Christian Europe. I don't blame students for kind of forgetting that Christianity started in the Middle East. When Islam took over, it kind of stamped out kind of that knowledge of the Christian Middle East. Christianity is a Middle Eastern, really it started in the Middle East. By the time you get, so for medieval Christians, kind of feeling like, well, we need to reclaim the birthplace of Christ, the birthplace of Christianity, from the Muslim Ottoman Turks who control the region by that point. And so for a couple centuries, you have European Christians going to the Middle East to fight, to live, to trade, to establish what's called Christian kingdoms. Jerusalem, Edessa, Antioch, places like that. And so you're going over the fight. By the time you get to the 13th century, 1291, the 13th century, by the time the Crusades have ended, you're no longer fighting to reclaim the birthplace of Christianity. But by this point, you have Europeans are getting reconnected to their trading routes. You go east to fight, and then you're like, wait a minute, you find out about all these things, spices, silk, fireworks. You see all this, all this cool, amazing stuff. And so you go back to Western Europe and you talk about all these cool things you discovered for yourself, or rediscovered in a way because you knew about it. Like ancient Romans knew about silk, and ancient Romans had spices. You kind of reconnected to that trading route. So you go back to the Middle East, and now you want to trade. And so all throughout Europe, you see the development of trading routes. All the major European cities that we know today were built up along these trading routes. Milan, Venice, Rome, Genoa, London, Paris, Barcelona, Madrid, Berlin, Budapest, all these major European cities developed as Europeans are starting to trade with the world again. Along these trading routes, towns develop because as medieval Europeans figure out or decide or come to the realization that towns are a lot safer than walking through the countryside. You guys heard the phrase highway robbery? Guess where that came from, right? You're walking the forests of Europe, you get robbed a lot. Well, the town, you're safer. Merchants figure out that it's more profitable to do business in the city or town and have people come to you rather than you traipsing all over the forests of Europe hoping to sell your wares somewhere. It's a lot more efficient, right? People come to you, you have your market, you have your shop, people come to you to trade. This develops the idea of the market day. Today we call them Renaissance fairs. If you've ever been to a Ren fair, what a Ren fair or Renaissance fair is, it's a recreation of a medieval European market day. All the surrounding villagers, all the surrounding farms, plantations, land, manors, would come to the market, come to the city or the town, and you'd do business. You'd buy things, you'd sell things, you would, if there was going to be a public execution, that would be the place to do it. There'd be games, jousting. You've probably heard of those games, jousting and all that. You'd have like a carnival or games. People would gossip. Obviously all the businesses would be full, drinking and having fun, right? And so the rise of town and trade is really important for the development of Europe. It makes Europe more wealthy, brings in wealth and goods, and gets Europe more interested in the world again.